explain to the audience the situation in Congo and why the world should be paying attention to what's going on?
I think we should be speaking about it as much as we're speaking about Drake and Kendrick. Like Chinese might come to Africa and build a road, but they're building it to take stuff out.
Okay.
They're not building it because they care about Africa. Right. So, I think that there needs to be a unity that isn't existing right now. And I saw Umar Johnson saying a few days ago that self-hate is not trusting each other. What does LGBTQ have to do with black nationalism and black sovereignty and bright black future? People are so opinionated about what they are and what they are not, but have no clue where we're going as a people.
Welcome back to another episode of Dailyrapupcrew. No book of, but I go by the name of Eli. Make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, the real Y Eli. I promise you, I reply to all DMs. I ain't got that many, so just entertain me. You know what I mean? As always, we got Ace with us.
Yes, indeed. You know what it is. We about to have some real talk. Hope y'all support this like y'all support the ratchet shit. You know what I mean? Ace to go 24.
Okay. Last but not least, we got Jew.
Oh man, what it do? It's your boy Jew, and I'm back in the stew. And we got my boy Chaka Zoo, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Chaka Bars, you know what I mean? I had to go with the flow, you know what I mean?
The bars, I like what you did there. Like that. Listen,
just
man.
walked into it.
Like Jew said, man, we got a special guest in the building. This guy is a fitness influencer, enthusiast, is an activist. He created the I Heart Africa initiative. We got Chaka Bars in the building. Let the folks know, where they can follow you at and where they can find you.
They can try and find me on Instagram, but right now they're my sense of my thing. So it's like you have to type in my whole name, and then before you try to follow me, it's gonna give you some kind of warning. So if you don't follow me, try and follow me now, just so you can see, and it says. You know what happens.
Shadow banned. Like.
They got me shadow banned. Every single product that Instagram has, I can't use. So I haven't been able to go live for 7 months.
Wow.
And then before that, I could go live for a week, and I couldn't go live for a year.
Yeah.
So
you know what that's about,
it's like a
you got too much info.
It's like a digital COINTELPRO.
We definitely gonna get into that too.
They can follow me on Chaka Bars, and they should also follow iHeartAfrica.org, as in DOT. ORG on IG, so they can catch up with what's going on in Congo.
Speaking of that, I do want to get straight into that. But before we get into that, hit that like button, subscribe if y'all not already subscribed. Join the membership. Hop the merch, man. Dailyrapupcrew.co, man. I know you was looking at me. You was like,
what is this?
It was hot, so I was like, I need something like that's gonna be like.
So you put on the holy moly?
I don't know what you talking about right now. Listen, man, let's get to this first topic. We trying to have a mature conversation.
You're right.
Again, you did talk about the Congo. Can you explain to the audience the situation in Congo and why the world should be paying attention to what's going on?
Because without Congo, then we wouldn't be able to have social media. We wouldn't be able to have microphones and phones and cars and planes, and all of this tech industry is fueled by the minerals that are coming from Congo right now. And I think the world should pay attention to it because it's the biggest humanitarian crisis of our time. So right now in Congo, there's 7 million people displaced, which is around the same as the population of New York displaced, living in a tent. Right? So, like this rising, yesterday actually, I got sent a video of people being bombed and like 14 people get killed. And it was a heartbreaking video that I saw because there was this woman, she just dead, and her child was on her back, and they had to pull the child off the back. And I'm looking for the child now so that I can try and give it a home because we built a village and we care for many orphan children in Congo. But the war is a war of resources. So if you watch the movie Avatar, it's like that's going on in Congo right now, where Western imperialists are sponsoring state sponsoring, because it's government funding, sponsoring the war in Congo so that the minerals can keep flowing to the West and to China. And we're all, if you have a phone, then you're complicit, you know? Mm-hmm. Everybody is complicit in this because the minerals are coming from there. And this idea that there's no conflict minerals in these devices is just a lie. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been to the mines where, like, I've been to the areas where people, I've seen bodies full of bodies. I've seen trucks full of bodies. Mm. So this genocide that's happening is happening for this tech industry. And it's not being spoke about because it's Black African people that it's happening to. Mm. If it was white folk, it was happening to, we'd be speaking about it. Mm. If it was Korean people, it was happening to, we'd be speaking about it. For sure. If it was Ukrainian people, it was happening to, we'd be speaking about it. It doesn't dominate the narrative. It's not taught in schools. It's been going on for 25 years, nearly 10 million people dead. Mm. So it's like, there's 7 million people displaced, but there's been more people killed since 1998, just for these minerals. Mm. And if we want to talk about a progressive Black future, we need to be speaking about how our involvement as people can be with our people, our brothers and sisters abroad, mm-hmm. so that we can help to facilitate a change for them, because we ain't going to stop buying phones and we ain't going to stop getting new tech. Everybody mm-hmm. needs the new tech to be up on communication, mm-hmm. right? But as much as communication is necessary, so is a common unity. And why do we only extend our community to our block or mm-hmm. to our respective country? Why, if we are benefiting from what's going on there, mm-hmm. we are not also trying to make ourselves accountable for the suffering?
Mm-hmm. I think I'm glad that you even brought it up, because I am just now being privy to what's going on. Like you said, it's been happening for 25 years. I feel like I just discovered this was going on in the last couple of months. You know what I mean? So what minerals specifically are these tech companies resourcing from Congo?
So 70% and 80% respectively of the world's cobalt and coltan are coming from Congo. And cobalt and coltan is the same thing that coats jets and planes, but it's also the same thing that goes in our motherboards that is able to send, and in our microchips to be able to send signals rapidly. So the best grade of it comes from Congo. And it's not like other countries don't have it, but all the rest of the countries in the world amount to 30% to 20% of it, mm-hmm. and Congo is 70 to 80% of it at the grade that is needed to be able to build these new superconductors and these new micro processing units.
So what can we do, like just in general, just people globally, Black Americans, Caribbeans, like what can we do to bring more attention to this? And, ultimately, what can we do? Because I'm having this conversation with you, I'm seeing what's happening online, but I don't know necessarily how I can contribute to the cause.
Yeah. I think we should be speaking about it as much as we're speaking about Drake and Kendrick, right? Because there's a hashtag Free Congo that people can use and stop tech genocide. And we are focused on the distractions. We're not focused on the atrocities and the solutions. Because as soon as it's just like having cancer. You cannot address and treat the cancer until you identify that you have it, right? You cannot treat something if you're not speaking about it. So everybody who's Black should be speaking about this. And then as people start to speak about it, the people who've been creating the solutions for many years will be like, all right, well, this is what needs to be done. But there's not a critical mass. There's not enough people speaking about it to even get to a point of these are the next steps or these are the solutions, because international governments receiving pressure from the rest of the world start to change their policies. They start to change the way that they do things. Slightly, slowly, but we're not even at that stage where people know enough about it to even begin to change stuff.
I believe, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but we're uneducated. We don't understand what's going, growing up in the American society, you're not taught what's going on. You only worry about what's, like you said, your neighbors or what's going on. But where do we get this information? I know you said we can look at it just as important as the Kendrick and Drake situation, but where do we get this information? Or who is spreading the awareness that we need to follow to understand? Because I could speak to African brother or sister, and that's not the conversation that we're having as well.
I think that's what he's saying is the problem, the awareness, right? Like people aren't aware of what's going on. So
where would that change? That information is not coming from
people like us, know what I mean, promoting on our platforms and getting other people to do the same. Like spreading awareness is the only way that's going to change it. Because
we're having a conversation, but where will we get the information, the answers?
So there's many accounts that are speaking about it, and it's just like anything. If you are into car detailing, you're going to find all of the accounts that do car detailing, right? And that's a very niche thing, but there's a whole community that surround that, right? Same with tuner cars, same with vegan food and alkaline food, same with, you know, I don't know, Japanese vintage clothing. There's a niche groups of people who look for information, and then they apply that information, it becomes knowledge, right? There's many accounts who are posting about this. There are myself, iHeartAfrica.org, there is Focus Congo, there's Friends of Congo, there's Congo to Global, these are all Instagram accounts. There's an account called Read My Art. There are, I would say there's what didn't even there now. Batoto Yagoma. One of the problems is the language barrier. Most Congolese people in Congo, they don't speak English. They speak French, they speak Lingala, they speak Kikongo, they speak Kiswahili. So a lot of the rhetoric that's coming out of there is coming out in a language that people don't understand. In what English speaking people don't understand. I think the other issue with finding information out about it is it's not as exciting as the Kendrick and Drake beef, right? So you have people who don't listen to rap now invested in this thing that's going on right now because it's trending, right? You have people who didn't really know what's going on, and they've listened to every single diss track, and they've all the history, and they know everything. They're doing analyses of it, but doing an analysis of why in Central Africa more people have been killed than the Jews during the Holocaust is not as exciting. It's kind of depressing if you actually look at it. It's kind of like, what? How many people dead? All right, wow. And then you've got like 25 years of history to look at. And it wasn't even 25 years of history. It started when King Leopold of Belgium invaded Congo and had his armies invade Congo after the Congo Conference in 1885, where he decided to take it as his personal country. This is where a lot of the fuckery really started to happen. When they decided that they wanted ivory, wild ivory, and they started chopping up elephants so they can make pianos, right? And when they invaded Congo so that they could take rubber out so that they could invent what we now know as the modern car tire. That's where it came from.
That's great.
Firestone, Bridgestone, all the rubber was coming from Congo to be able to invent this tire. So without this suffering that's been going on now for 140, 150 years, that a lot of the things that people take for granted every day wouldn't have even happened. And it's not just the coltan and the cobalt. Congo produces over 1 billion per year of diamonds, gold, wolframite, tungsten. Like everybody has a phone, right? And your phones vibrate. It's tungsten that spins around in the phone that makes that vibration. It comes from Congo, right? The same with a lot of the copper. Copper wiring is probably going through all of this circuitry system right now. It's not coming from Massachusetts, right? It's coming from Congo. As I just said, you can find out something if you care about it, but you need to care about it, and to be aware is to be human.
Understandable.
So how do we get to a point where, I know you're big on this concept of a one united Africa. I know Nelson Mandela, that was something that he preached about as well. You know, how important is it to have all of these African countries come together and just be one united country and get rid of these invisible borders that kind of separate those countries? And, you know, when we hear about things like xenophobia, you know, people are discriminating other African people are discriminated against one each other because of the country that they live in and things of that nature. So how do we get to a point where we just get to this one united Africa?
We have to have visionaries, and because the thing about colonization and the thing about the invisible hand and the groups that control the world, they're not billions of people. There's very small groups of people. They're called the Illy or the elite or the Illuminati. They're just small groups of people who decide that they're going to do with the world what they want to do with the world, right? And the way that we get to a USA, a United States of Africa, right, is by removing all of these colonial borders that didn't exist before. Because Africa was never nation states. There was no such thing as nation statism. They were territorial states, and they were controlled and ruled by empires and kingdoms, right? And now what they did is they made our kings and leaders chiefs, but they weren't chiefs. They were administrators of the land for the people. Yes, they were feudal societies, but they weren't political societies that were based on representative democracy. It was direct democracy, right? Or it was monarchy and empire. There was imperialism. But if you look at the development that was happening during these empires, it was rapid development for their own people. When transatlantic slavery happened, people started being removed from Africa. And then the labor, because there was indentured slavery, there was indentured servitude, there was indentured labor. But the energy of that stayed within Africa. When you started removing everybody who was, going to work on a farm all of their life or going to mine gold all of their life and taking them to here, to America, to pick cotton, and taking them to Barbados to crop sugarcane, and taking them to Brazil to grow rice. You removed this energy. You removed, as well as the brain drain. So they took all of our most smart, intelligent people. They also took just a general labor force.
Like the workforce. Okay.
Right. And so that removed, and it's still happening to this day, right? But it's not white people that are doing it. It is our own leadership that isn't able to sustain a growing population to the type of life or with the infrastructure that is needed. So they're running away to Europe. As soon as they get the degree, they're gone, right? Or even if they don't get the degree, they're gone. Because I was just walking down the street out here on Canal Street, and I see a bunch of first-generation African immigrants selling shades and doing whatever they can do, because in their country, whether it's Mali or whether it's Nigeria or whether it's South Sudan, imperial Western powers, Eastern powers, whether it's China, whether it's UK, France, USA, have made it so difficult to live in their countries that they're running to the mother country. Then you get here and you realize, ain't no money here. It's all debt. Like, it's fake money. It's not real money anyway. So I think we get to a United States of Africa by investing into our own countries and creating our own infrastructure for ourselves and creating our own, because a lot of people are coming out of university in Africa and they ain't no job. A lot of African Americans are moving to Africa. A lot of Afro-Caribbeans are moving to Africa thinking they're going to be able to find a job, and they ain't no jobs. And so they're moving back because they ain't no jobs. And the reason why they ain't no jobs is because the industries that are prevalent in the West, so manufacturing, goods and services, are not in Africa to the same degree, because Africa is mainly a breadbasket for the West. It's mainly labor resources.
Right.
Even all the natural resources that's from over there?
Yeah, but they don't manufacture them there. They take them out. But Nigeria is one of the biggest providers of oil to the rest of the world.
Right.
Doesn't refine no oil. Doesn't refine no oil. They have to buy back the oil at a premium. Buy back the fuel at a premium. There's always fuel shortages in Nigeria. But at the same time, this Shell energy company literally paid the corrupt Nigerian government at the time to stop people who were protesting Shell for mining oil in areas where they were fishing, polluting up the whole areas, and they were murdering people en masse, like massacring people. And now, 30 years later, 40 years later, after the Biafra War, what do you see? You see polluted Nigeria. 95% of Nigeria's forests are gone. They're not there anymore. And Nigeria is always having fuel shortages every single day, every other day. If you go to the petrol station, you go to the gas station in Nigeria, you're going to experience a mad thing. There's either queues for hours or there's a surplus and people are now fighting because it's there to try and get as much as they can. So I would say to the brothers here and anybody watching, invest in Africa, because your oppressors are investing in Africa and you're investing in your oppressors. It doesn't make no sense.
Right.
So even though they have the natural resources, you're saying that they don't manufacture in Africa?
No.
So
ain't no factories.
building more factories to manufacture, that would be I want to say a quick solution, but it would be a start. Like
it would be
start.
It would be a start on infrastructure, because Africans, we don't need aid, we need trade. Right. We don't need aid. Countries don't develop off aid. We need trade. I would say factories, but before factories, I would say energy companies, because you need something to power those factories. Gotcha. As well as just the basic infrastructure like roads and water, because like Chinese might come to Africa and build a road, but they're building it to take stuff out. Okay. They're not building it because they care about Africans. Right. Like
they're putting tolls on it.
Right. You see Chinese here. They don't care about Africans. They'll sell you whatever you want to buy. But when it comes to like you being in their store, it's like hurry up and buy. Right.
So how do we get to a point where, because right now I see a lot of African countries are fighting back against colonial powers, but it seems like they're pushing one colonial power to bring in another one, which is China or Russia, like, you know what I mean? So how do we get to a point where Africa can just sustain itself without the need to rely on these other power structures that are ultimately just utilizing them to just fund their own countries and things of that nature?
There's a cool book you can read. I mean, I say it's a book. It's more like a Bible of economics called The Blueprint for Black Power by Amos Wilson. And he speaks about how to get the economy right here in the USA, right, for Black folk, right? If you are able to start to organize your own economy, you can go over and be influential in other people's economies. So that, because if you start organizing resources in Africa, but then you don't have somewhere useful to bring it to, like, you know, your own Black neighborhood with your own systems of receiving resources. I was speaking to Jess Hilarious yesterday on the Breakfast Club, and I was speaking about the ports in Baltimore. There's so many Black folk in Baltimore, and they have a GDP of like 200 billion, right? An annual GDP of 200 billion. But how many Black folk do you know with a shipping company who's bringing in shea butter and gold from Ghana or from Nigeria to there? And how many Black folk do you know that even have their own bank to be able to have a safe landing place, to be able to do trade and to do business? It's like, we're doing trade in America. We're doing trade in the UK. We're putting it all in we're putting all of this Black money in white banks. Right. So I would say that, like, for instance, you're from Barbados. I'm from Barbados. To get a Class 2 banking license, or I think it's a Class B banking license, is $250,000, right? At the moment, I think it's going to change to a bit higher. But at the moment, a corporate tax obligation in Barbados is 2%. You could have a Black bank taking Black money and doing Black things with that Black money and only have to pay a 2% tax obligation on it. And then in America, what are you paying? Like 20%, 30%, 40%, depends on what bank you're banking with and what bracket you're in, right? A lot of you white folk, Arabs don't pay tax, first of all. Dubai is tax-free. Saudi Arabia is
That's crazy.
tax-free.
I didn't know
They,
that.
they don't pay tax,
Yeah.
right? Because what is tax? Is theft. If somebody, all right, for instance, if I buy a drink here in this country, right?
Yeah.
And somebody paid tax to bring that drink in or make that drink. Now I pay tax on that drink. And if I sell that drink to somebody else, they always have to pay tax to buy it off me. Who are we paying all this money to?
It's a scam, man.
And what is it doing?
Yeah.
I saw yesterday, or no, a few weeks ago when I was here, because I was just in Jamaica, and then before that I was in Congo. I saw that the USA is $34 trillion in debt.
Mm-hmm.
To who? Because I know I ain't in debt to no black folk.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you $34 trillion in debt to? You ain't in debt to people of your community.
Right.
Who are you in debt to? And who are you working for? And what are you working for? Because when you come here, the cost of living to the quality of life is
It's
just
outrageous.
ridiculous.
Outrageous.
It's like everybody here is melanated. So I'm assuming everybody here has a black country where they can go and get some natural fruit. They can go and get some natural sun.
Mhm.
They can go, whether you're in Barbados, whether you're in Guatemala or Mexico, or wherever you're in Senegal, you can get some natural fruit. You can get some natural sun. You can get some natural food,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And you probably ain't going to get cancer at the same rate as you would get it here.
They feeding you cancer out here.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that there needs to be a unity that isn't existing right now. And I saw Umar Johnson saying a few days ago that self-hate is not trusting each other. That's a form of self-hate.
Mm.
Not because everybody now, the focus is on, oh, well, you don't want to be with a black woman. That's self-hate.
Mhm.
We don't even trust each other.
Mhm.
Like there's songs that people make called Don't Trust Niggas.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Boondocks years ago, and Uncle Ruckus was singing a song, Don't Trust Those New Niggas Over There.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rick Ross has got a song, Don't Trust These Niggas. He didn't say don't trust these corporate white folk who are mass incarcerating us and own shares in private prisons, but also own shares in Warner Music Group.
Yeah.
He's not saying don't trust Chinese who are buying up our whole blocks and owning them and then beating us in their stores.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say don't trust Indians and Koreans who own our whole black hair and nail industry.
Mhm.
He said don't trust niggas.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then what are we doing when we see each other in the street? It's like we're this far away from shooting each other.
Mm-hmm.
We're this far away from attacking each other.
True.
We would see a black woman get beat in the street.
Mhm.
But if a white woman starts getting beat in the street, everybody wants to run around and be like, oh, this can't happen to whiteness. And then on the Sunday, what do? We go and praise white Jesus. So we need to love ourselves first,
Mhm.
and we need to figure out ways to be useful where we are before we're going to be useful in Africa. Because most people ain't accountable to their own community. As soon as they get money,
Yeah.
they leave their community.
Yeah.
I do want to get to this issue, which on the grand scale of things is a minuscule issue, but I see how it's affecting African communities globally. And that's this whole concept of this diaspora war that's going on,
Mhm.
right? On my way here, actually, I'm on TikTok and I've seen, several, Black UK people always mention how Black Americans are this, they don't have culture. We also had a conversation with Caribbean people who have this disdain towards Black Americans, and that's also causing a divide where it's just like, okay, Black Americans may not want to mess with, Africans. Some African people even have degrading terms that they call Black Americans, like Akata and all of these things, and that creates a divide where we don't want to, cooperate with each other. I know you are big on pan-Africanism. Can you speak to this whole diaspora war that's going on?
It's being created and perpetuated by the slave masters and the powers that be, because the diaspora war, whether it's African Americans or Black Americans pissed that Caribbeans are coming to North America and getting a different experience to Black Americans, and they're like, well, we built this with our blood, sweat, and tears, and you guys are just coming over there on the boat and coming and getting positions of power that we didn't even have access to, but we paved the way for that.
Okay.
And I get the rhetoric, like I overstand the rhetoric, but at the same time, it's like, well, so you don't know about slavery in the Caribbean. Like you don't know what was actually going on there.
Yeah.
And then when people say, well, What about, because the thing is that the same Africans who were selling us, because there were some Africans who were selling us, are the elites, are the same ones who are selling off the country for oil right now. The same ones who are creating instability in their own countries so that now there's an organ trade in Libya, right? They're the same people who are a very small group of people.
Yeah.
It is not, it's the African elites. It is not the average African person.
Right.
Even though you might have an educated average African person who has this superpower, supercomputer in their pocket, and they're perpetuating this narrative of spreading xenophobia, right? Generally speaking, that rhetoric came from slave master. Is not. Let's not pretend like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the Move organization, Mumia's still in jail. Black Panthers are still in jail to this day, and we're celebrating the Black Panther movie like it's some kind of massive success. At the same time as the Black Panther movie is celebrating the CIA, right? And the CIA and the FBI are responsible for killing our leaders, right?
For sure.
And the
goes into the COINTELPRO.
the failed light skin. A lot of people, his name is on the FBI building, J. Edgar Hoover. A lot of people don't realize that he actually is a light skin. He's not a white guy, right? That might be news to everybody. Go and Google that. Go and look it up. And
he's a light skin
black.
He's a black man.
Yeah. And that's probably why he had such a disdain for black people and created this whole, because he was trying to get white validation. Let's not pretend like Marcus Garvey wasn't trying to unite with pan-Africanism, which was then the birth of Rastafari. Let's not pretend like Marcus Garvey wasn't trying to unite the whole of East, Central, West, South Africa with South America, North America, and the Caribbean. Right? He was trying to do that, but COINTELPRO was created by the FBI to try and stop that from happening. And one of the points, there was 3 main points for COINTELPRO. The documents are free, they're liberated, and they were actually liberated by some white folk called the White Panthers. There were Black Panthers, there were Red Panthers, there were White Panthers. And they went and they liberated these documents. And in these documents, it said that the main objective of COINTELPRO was to stop the rise of a black messiah. So they killed all of our black leaders that were useful. To stop the rise of a black nation, because there's enough black folk in North America to start their own nation if they wanted to. Like the Mormons be doing it, the Jewish people be doing it. Black people are like, no, we can't do that, right?
But I think Umar has said when we had him on the episode that we tried to start like our own communities at one point and they like destroyed them.
We did.
We did. So it's not like we didn't want to, it's just that they're not letting us.
Yes and no, because since that happened, there's been no significant move to do it again. It's like Bob Marley said, Babylon doesn't take a day off, so why should we? Right?
So why do you think that is though? Is that like fair, or you think they just don't want to?
Because we lost our spirituality. And now we're just focused on religion. You can't believe in God and fear death because God has got you, right? Right? You know, we're sitting there saying that it's like Peter Tosh said, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Right? We're sitting there and we're saying that we believe in God. We're God-fearing people, right? So if God has got our back, then why are we scared of what white folk are going to do?
Why do you think they work so hard to try to keep us separated? Like,
it's a business. Just like I was saying about COINTELPRO, it was, as well as the 2 points that I made before, one of the main points was to stop African Americans speaking to Black Africans, especially in South Africa, because of how much gold was being taken out of South Africa by white people. It's a business. They're not just doing it because they hate us. They're doing it because they make money from it.
But the shit is working. Still to this day, we can have these conversations time and time again. I don't, and I'm not speaking for every Black person, but I don't think we ignore what's going on. We just not as informed. But, sometimes we have these conversations with different groups of people, it could be Jamaican, Asian, or African. I worked in the daycare a part of my life, and I remember hearing a woman tell her daughter, I told you about playing with these little Black girls. You know what I'm saying? But this is coming from, we share the same color, we share the same bond, some of the same traumas, and we always get the look or the image that we're the problem as Black African Americans.
We're lazy. We don't have culture. Like that's the rhetoric. And this is why I brought it up. This is the rhetoric that's constantly being perpetuated.
Definitely.
And I think Black Americans are saying like, we have enough to deal with. And not only do we have to deal with the white power structure, because we're one of the outside of like UK, Black Americans are only one of the only few, groups of African people who live in a country that's primarily dominated by, non-Black people. Like, you know what I'm saying? So not only do we have to deal with them, now we have to deal with people that look like us also having this negative connotation towards us. We even had an African woman who parents admitted that, yo, I don't want you dealing with Black Americans. I don't want you dating them. I don't want you anywhere near them. She was like, yo, my parents literally told me that. The Caribbean woman, the same thing. Like, so it almost is like they're coming over here, you know what I mean? And they're having this hatred or disdain for us. And to, Black Americans, it is looking a certain type of way where it's like, okay, why should we care when they don't even care about us? So, you know what I mean? So I'm glad that we are having these conversations because it's kind of like,
It's also a myth. There's no Nigerians running around killing Crips. There's no people from Baltimore running around having a war with a Somali gang. It's online. The reality is that we're all catching hell from the same groups of people, and it's not each other. Yes, you might have gangbanging happening in Chicago between Black Americans and Black Americans, but this diaspora wars is not an actual war. Because if it was an actual war, you'd know about it, right? Yes, somebody might get into a fight and they happen to be a Nigerian person and a Black American and somebody dies. But there's not an army. There's not a standing army of Nigerians coming over. African people are coming over here for opportunities. If we're speaking about the opinions of the elites, fuck the elites. Whether it's elite Africans, elite whites, whatever, fuck the elites. They're not the majority of people. When we're speaking about the average African thinks that the average African American thinks they're African booty scratcher and they were swinging from trees, and the average Black American, and the average foolish African, both are foolish, but the average foolish African thinks of the African American that they're superior, and these African Americans were descendants of slaves, etc., etc. But there's not an actual war. It's just rhetoric that is created almost like a soft kind of social violence where there's this ambiguity, there's this animosity. But then as soon as you're like, hey, come to my house and eat food, or hey, bro, I love you, it goes away immediately. It's not like Black Americans are setting up barriers against against African people building here. And it's not like African people building here are setting up barriers against African Americans. So I think, as I said before, the people who are pushing this narrative of, these African immigrants are coming over and stealing our jobs, these Caribbean, they are leaders of small groups, and these leaders always benefit. That's why they're perpetuating this narrative. If you're a leader of an anti-African group and you're a Black American, you're benefiting from it. Just like how the pastor in the church is trying to tell you that you need to pay me money so you can get salvation in heaven. It's just a lie, right? And so I know, because I know and I live in Africa, so I know a lot of Africans. And that idea doesn't exist in Africa. Anytime you speak to Africans about African American, that's our brother, they're trying to wear the clothes, they're listening to the music. That doesn't even exist. Go to Ghana at Christmas. Go to Ghana at Christmas and you're going to see 1 million African Americans living their life and not being discriminated against by African people, right? So it's one of those things that only exists in our mind, but then we allow it to grow into this dark cloud and shape this rhetoric and shape this narrative. Fools with phones who are perpetuating this rather than perpetuating, hey, let's do business together, are just fools with phones.
Got you. And, to kind of piggyback off of this diaspora war, which, like you said, is not a war. We also, in America, have a gender war that's going on, right? So, since you primarily spend a lot of your time in Africa and in the Caribbeans, how has the dating in relationship culture in America influenced dating and relationships in Africa or in the Caribbeans?
It's only really the same elite and the same people who have phones and TVs that it influences. The people who are interested in reality TV and wahala and nonsense. It influences them because we have to understand that capitalism is a disease. It's a sickness.
Mhm.
If you, I give an example that is made often. If you see a monkey and the monkey is on a ship and the ship is on the coast, but it's not actually docked yet, and the ship is full of food, and the monkey's going to sit there with all of this food and let it rot and go to waste while all of his other monkeys on the coast can't get no food, that's capitalism. Very small groups of people hoarding everything and watching it rot underneath them, because money is just energy. It's just a flow of energy, and it should continue to flow. You can't take it with you. You weren't born with it, or some people were born with it, but you can't take it with you when you go.
Right.
So why are you going to watch people starve to death to protect capitalism? That doesn't make any sense. Are we humans or are we capitalists? We have to make a decision, because capital makes sense as far as moving wealth around to be able to support your people. But if you're stealing wealth from your people, and if you're hoarding wealth from your people, it doesn't make any sense. And so this idea, this capitalist idea that's now finding its way into Africa, because capitalism was enforced in Africa, but there was many different financial systems in Africa. There was communalism first, right? There was communism. All this Marxism and socialism came from Africa in ancient systems that were in various different empires, varied different kingdoms and schools of thought, right? If you now, as an African, where if you look at what capital cities are, they're ways of moving capital out of Africa into the rest of the white world. That's what a capital city is. There was no such thing as a capital city before. There was the head of the kingdom, right? There was the center of the empire. And those centers were based on trade routes that were established for that empire. They weren't established for white capitalism. So you can't love Africa and love capitalism, right? Because one was destroyed on the foundation of the other, right? Capitalism was founded and as Africa was destroyed. Before that, capitalism didn't exist. Capitalism was founded as these conquests were made across the Americas and the indigenous population were destroyed. So this idea of now dating up and dating, because there's always been an idea, especially for women, of dating, or not dating, but marrying in a way that you'll be able to take care of your kids and your family, right? But now where it's like
hypergamy concept,
right? Exactly. But now where people are like, yeah, but I need 2 cars and I need a big house and I need this, that, and I need some Louis Vuitton and I need these things. This capitalism sickness is now finding its way into capital cities in Africa. But when you go to rural areas and rural communities, it does not exist. The same systems, because you have capital cities, but then you have municipalities that are run by chiefs. So the majority of Africa outside of the capital is run by elected officials for the people. And this is what I mean about direct democracy. In America, you have representative democracy. So you have these representatives that are supposed to represent the people, but they're bought off by corporations, right? If you're a chief and you live in a village in Ghana, or you live in a village in Nigeria, you live amongst the people.
You are the people.
You are the people.
Right.
So if you don't do for the people, they'll lynch you.
Right. Okay.
There's a big difference between a representative who doesn't have anything to do with the people but supposed to represent them, and somebody who lives there where the people live.
Right.
I'm not saying that there's not corruption there as well, but there's definitely less corruption there than there is with representative democracy, because you don't see the politicians until it's time to vote.
Right.
That's a fact.
You don't see the politicians until it's time to vote, but you know the family of the chief forever.
Right.
And so, just to kind of make the point, now and forever, the system of relationships in Africa is going to be different to the system of relationships in the West, because the systems of relationships in Africa hold cultural values, hold political values, hold spiritual values for Africans, which doesn't have anything to do with the West.
Right.
So that's why, for instance, a relationship system such as polyandry and polygamy exists in Africa, and most of the countries in Africa is legal, whereas in the West it's illegal, because Africans have different values to Westerners.
All right, so that kind of makes me want to even talk about the reason why I reached out to you probably like a year ago, right? And I got a lot of DMs saying that, oh, you know, Chaka Bar doesn't agree with what you guys said with the conversation with Dr. Umar. And I did want to know, like, you know, and you answered very respectfully, like, yo, we can have a conversation, which, you know, a lot of people would come more hostile. So I respect you to the fullest. But I want to know, where's the disconnect, or what didn't you agree with us off of that previous episode with Dr. Umar?
To be honest with you now, I can't really remember. I'm not gonna lie. So give me context as the points that you guys were making.
Well, he said something similar to that. You know, the women out here would have to respect the men out there, and that's just very standard. But we should understand that we have to accept them how they are. But if they want to deal with a man in Africa, that they would have to adjust their behavior.
Yeah, culture shock. They would have to change their incentives, because the incentives here are based on capitalism, and the incentives there are based on family values, political and social cultural values. So where you have a woman here who's been told, because you have to look at what was done to the woman here, right? The Black American woman here was removed from her husband during mass incarceration, right? Black American women were told, and this is why we need to bring back the Black Panthers People's Free Food Program. They were told that after Black Panthers People's Free Food Program, which was because there was no welfare during segregation, right? We were segregated. We had to do it for ourselves. If we didn't grow our own food, we weren't eating food, right? If we didn't have our own hospitals, or we didn't have our own healthcare, we weren't getting that kind of service. We didn't have our own schools and our own universities. We weren't going, right? Now, where you have these ideas of welfare, they came about during the white people destroying Black Panthers at the same time as adopting some of the Black Panther practices. So woman, infant, child came from Black Panthers feeding people because people were starving, right? Then that woman, infant, child was sold by white men to Black women. Well, you know, we'll look after your kids. You know, you can get EBT. You know, we'll pay for. You don't need no man in the house. At the same time as dropping millions of men into jail on trumped-up charges because drugs were being brought into our neighborhoods here in America. And so now you have Black women looking at Black men. We're like, I don't need you. So what can I get from you?
But these were the same men that were also dying in defense of women during slavery time. All that 100%. Time, everything gets ignored. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's propaganda though. And it goes back to self-hate. But it's always the victor that tells the story. And who owns the media? Like I was just saying before, a lot of our brothers and sisters are censored on social media, can't even get a message out to their people. So yeah, they're going to be able to demonize a Black man. And I say it often because I don't necessarily agree with everything that somebody like Rizza Islam says. But don't censor him. Don't stop him from speaking to his people. I agree with a lot of what he says.
Yeah.
When it comes to the whole religion thing, me and him part ways, right? But at the same time, he's my brother. I agree with what he says more than any of the Zionists bombing children in Palestine right now. I agree with what he says more than any white folk who are trying to tell me you can and can't say these things because some people are going to get offended. Like that whole reverse racism thing is a lie, right? And so women here have been destroyed, and destroyed to the point where they think that we are also partly to blame because we weren't there to protect them when they were being destroyed. Because if a white woman calls the police today, the police are going to, on somebody who's Black, somebody who's Chinese, or somebody who's not white, the police are going to come and they are going to defend that woman like the end of white civilization is happening right there and then. They're going to protect that woman and protect her whiteness. And that's why I'm always confused when brothers are with sisters and are complaining about the sisters and going over to white women. Or when Black women are with brothers and they're like, I can't do brothers anymore, they cheat too much or something, and they're going over to white men. Because I'm like, you do know that these people used to own you, right? And you do know that they still own the systems that still own you. So if a white woman
calls the police on a black man and he dies, I don't know what you expected, right? And so where you have these women in North America, black women in North America, their standards and values, not all of them, but a lot of their standards and values and the popular culture and the rhetoric that's coming out in the music, etc., is skewed because they're looking at you, black men, like, well, you weren't there for us and we don't need you now. Because black women are getting all of the degrees, they're starting all of the businesses and they're doing all of this stuff. But that's the whole divide and rule thing. And this is why I don't listen to any of them bomber-clad idiot try and tell me about how we are all one and we should all love each other. But stop dividing us from our own family. Right. Stop dividing us from our own family. LGBTQ is the biggest social movement, social justice movement in North America right now. But what does LGBTQ have to do with black nationalism and black sovereignty and bright black future? People are so opinionated about what they are and what they are not, but have no clue where we're going as a people. So they have their phones out, they're ready, they're outraged, and they're triggered. That's the word now. They're triggered, right? While we're still getting shot by police. That's the trigger. So why is it literally? So why is it that we give so much space and we give so much time for values and people that don't necessarily align with where we need to go and where we need to be? And back to the point about the relationships and relationship systems in Africa. If you are black and you marry with somebody who is black and you are moving black people forward, that's the black future that we need, because revolution is black family. If you're somebody who's trying to deviate from that, then you're not a revolutionary. You might think that you're a revolutionary because you've got a phone and you've got a Twitter, but you're not actually a revolutionary because it's black family. And black American women going to Africa would have to uphold the values and the standards of African men. The same as black American men going to Africa to be with African women would have to uphold the values and standards of her father and her uncles and her brothers, etc., that align with the dominant philosophy in whichever country or whatever culture that is being married into.
I think where the disconnect happens is we also are trying to build families here in America. So if they can immediately flip that switch and give them the respect when they get there, that means they can do it. Right. So
and they
why
should.
are they not showing that ability here when we're trying to do the same thing that they would go there and try to do? Doesn't you see what I'm saying?
I think sometimes, to go back to the capitalistic, the mindset, in America, there's studies on it, but the people that, generate the most, that spend the most money are single people. So when you keep people single, they spend money. And that's why we get to these relationship or gender wars, is that we keep people single. And when people are single and not creating families, they tend to spend more, they tend to become more materialistic, which you see with the women, the men.
Consumerism.
Black Americans, we spend like $2 trillion a year, Black Americans alone. Like, you know what I'm saying? None of it, like you said, is on Black owned businesses. A lot of it is on white owned businesses, Chinese owned businesses, etc. So just to get back to this whole, we got to get back to this nuclear family. We got to get rid of this gender divide that's going on. And I do want to dive real quick into interracial relationships. Like, what exactly is your thoughts? And what is your dating history? Because if you let the internet tell it, they will say that you very much date white women. You know what I mean? And you don't date black women or whatever the case. So you don't publicly display that you date black women. So what's your thoughts on interracial relationships?
I've never in my life dated a white woman.
Okay.
So I've slept with white women when I was younger, because back in the day, there was the hoes that had the money. So we used to steal from them. We used to go up to their areas. No, the Jewish ones. We used to go up to their areas. Right. They wanted black dick and we wanted white money. Right. So that was what was happening when we were young. Okay. At the same time, we didn't know no better. Right. So we were just doing what we thought was the thing, because white women, or these Jewish women, these Caucasians, girls, because we were boys at the time, right? We were 15, 16, 17.
Right.
They would buy us food. They would buy us a whole outfit. They would buy us stuff. If we were dating our own women at the time, we had to buy them stuff and we didn't have no money. Like we were selling drugs to try and get some money so that we could floss, so that we could look good. We wanted to sound like, not sound like, we wanted to look like what Jay-Z made that life sound like, right? But
is that a product of self-hate? Because if the Black women that are listening now, they will internalize that and say that's self-hate.
Yeah, it was self-hate.
It was
self-hate. Of course it was self-hate. But when you have an oppressor that flaunts this wealth in your face that was built off the back of your people, you want some of that wealth. So you're going to do whatever you can to try and get it unless you're shown examples of success. That's why I say to all people who are watching this, take your children to Africa and show them examples of success. Show them African millionaires. Show them African kings with not that I necessarily agree with feudalism or whether I necessarily agree with people amassing lots of wealth, but that's the incentives here. So if you can take a kid over to Mali, over to Senegal, over to Ghana, and show them a king that has literally hundreds of millions of dollars in actual solid gold and, you know, a caravan of 100 people carrying him on a gold stool, that might give them a kind of whoa. And then when I get here and I can't even flag down a yellow cab, right? It might give them that juxtaposition of, oh, well, you know, they're doing something over there, because as soon as you show them examples of Black success, now they start to see that self-love. But no, I've never dated any white women. Back in the day, I dated some light-skinned women. And maybe that was
perceived as you dating
perceived as me dating women out of self-hate. My partners now are all dark-skinned African women, and I will have children with African women. And I could be with, honestly, respectfully, before this social media stuff, I had motion. I could date whoever I wanted to be with. I could be with whoever I wanted to be with.
It was that nigga.
I was that guy. I was that guy because I was that guy back in the day when I used to sell drugs. And then I joined the military and I was a boxer. And then I came out and I was a personal trainer. And you know about personal trainers and women. It's their fantasy. They want to be with a PT, right? So I've been that guy for a long time. But where I realized about 10 years ago that if we Black men spend more time trusting and loving each other, not in a sexual way, but in a brotherly love way, and doing business together than we did trying to get pussy, then some shit would be solved.
We say that all the time.
Some shit would be solved very quickly because we spend so much time talking about who we're hitting, who we're going to hit, and trying to get things so that we can try and finesse women out of their bodies without having to marry them, right? And if we put this money together and put this energy together, we might own a mine in Congo. You know, we might own a tech company in Ghana, because every other group of people in the world have their differences. They go to war with each other. They kill each other. But the way that they look at us, they all look at us as niggas. They all look at us as stupid and opportunities. And so my interracial relationship, so like my granddad is white, right? So my grandma got with...
He's Scottish, you said.
Scottish, yeah. So my granddad is white, but then I have 3 grandparents who are all Black. 2 from Barbados and 1 from Jamaica, right? And so I would be considered mixed. So you could consider me a product of an interracial relationship, right? But I wasn't raised white. And I wasn't raised with any allegiances to white power, white philosophy, white economics, right? When you have this dichotomy of a Black man and a white woman, or a Black woman and a white man, you have 2 communities that are at war with each other in the same relationship. So you have the slave master and the slave in the same relationship. So then when you create a child, you have the oppressed and the oppressor in the same body. That's why mixed people are the most confused people in the world. Oh, I don't know, I've got my Black side, I've got my white side. I'm like, well, which side is it? Because if I was to cut your arm off, is that the white part or is that the Black part? Melanin dominates anything that it gets put into. So even mixed people or biracial people, they're still melanated people, right? They can still dance, they can still
But
run.
you're forced to choose a side.
But you're forced to choose a side by society because of your political allegiances, which is based on what your parents' values and views are. That's why I look at black men who have got money and should be with a black sister and should be putting that money into a black community. I look at these men and I see them with white women and I'm like, so when you're dead, you know that the white woman's just going to move all that money into her community, right? The rich ones, the wealthy ones. But regardless, why if there is this dichotomy? I remember years ago I watched this interview with Muhammad Ali and he was breaking down how when the blue birds go to the watering hole and the white birds go to the watering hole and the pink birds go to the watering hole and the yellow birds go to the watering hole, they all mix. And then at the end of the day, when the sun starts to go down, they all go back to their own communities, right? And what we do is we were so happy to get by white people, we've mixed and we stayed there. And how has it left us? Because Frantz Fanon says, is one of my favorite authors, he says that the benefits of power become obsolete if you have to ask for them, right? When you have a white dichotomy and a black dichotomy and the whites are like this in their wealth and their education and their systems and their institutions and the blacks are like this, and then you, a black person, try and step into this white space, right? You're always going to be at the bottom of it. You're never going to be able to dominate it, and you're never going to be able to aim. Think about all of these black men who got with white women. What do they do in the black community?
They usually leave. They usually leave the community and go into like a white community.
Right. And what do they do for the black community? Nothing.
Nothing.
And all of these black actors, artists.
Do you think it's because they want to be involved around white people, or how some of the men are treated differently from how their relationship or experiences was with black? Because we're, some men are still getting held with the trauma of what women was being treated from prior history, or their mother's history or their grandmother's history. We're still holding on to that. So, as a young boy, I'm being treated different. Oh, black men ain't shit. You hear this all the time, or we cheating, or this, that, and other. And that whole demeanor is held against us. So sometimes I do think some men step out because of the difference of treatment.
Be broke in any culture and you're going to receive different treatment.
For sure.
Get money in any culture and you're going to receive different treatment. I think a problem is that these men have now got money and black women remind them of when they were broke.
Okay.
Because if you are a black man who's got money, because ultimately, like, money rules the world, right? Nowadays, not family values or standards or anything. It's money that rules the world. If you're a black man and you've got money, get with a black woman and you've got money, and see how differently she treat you to a black man who doesn't have money.
I don't know. I'm not even trying to argue with you.
The thing is that
you still owe her in her eyes, whether you just met her or not. You owe her. Yeah,
but you do owe her. And the reason why you do owe her is because she is a woman of your community and you are a protector and a provider for that community. So you owe her.
I still should get respect without...
You should get respect.
Yeah.
But that you providing and protecting her should come with respect. If it doesn't come with respect, then there needs to be a re-education. But what is the alternative? The alternative is marrying outside of your, or dating outside of your race, outside of your economy, and your own self-sabotage.
I don't agree with that at all, but I want to put you on like a TV show or something. Live out here for a month or two and then...
But the thing is that people will often, like, a lot of these conversations are just emotional commitments to ignorance. They're just prejudice.
Understand.
They don't make any sense, right? So when somebody, like, I've never had a debate and lost a debate because I don't debate points that I can't back up with facts and evidence, right? And so I'm not going to sit there and debate a bunch of men or a bunch of women about their lived experiences with relationships. Because honestly, I don't give a shit. I don't. Like, that's your own trauma and that's your own stuff to deal with. There's 7 million people displaced in Congo right now. We've got some stuff to do, right?
For sure.
So there's every single weekend, there's, whether it's in Chicago or whether it's in Kingston, Jamaica, there's 10, 15, 20 people being murdered so that white people can continue to make money from us. So when people get on these podcasts and they just sit on this soapbox of emotionality and it's undisciplined And I think it's disrespectful to if we're kings,
Yeah.
if we're queens, if we are created in God's image. Is this what God wanted us to do? Be ruled by white people and argue amongst each other and rat each other out and be dirty to each other? So when white women see us as the athletes, they see us as the big dick and the body, and they see us as money. They see us as an orphan child, and they're gonna come and mother us. They're gonna come and mother us, and we get to be a man around them. You know, whereas our own women, we don't get to be a man around because our own women remind us that we ain't got no fucking power. We ain't got no power within white society. We don't have no power. Our own women are going to remind us of that.
Man, want to have to be constantly reminded of that. And again, I'm not. I don't advocate for. You know, I still love black women. I'm going to marry a black woman. But I think what happens is some men that are in positions of power, they honestly do want, you know, to be treated with respect, like Ju says, and we don't hold them to the same standard because Lupita was just out dating with a white man or whatever the case is, and the comments would tell you, oh, congrats for her. We don't hold those. Eve is the same way. She's married to a billionaire. We don't hold black women the same. We don't say, damn, well, if she wears the past, her resources are going to a white community. We only tend to hold black men to those same responsibilities while we praise the black women that's getting the Brads and the Chads. We give them, I hear the comments, they applauding her, and it just seems a bit, you know what I mean?
But the reason for that is, or in my opinion, the reason for that is because we don't have any value on black women. We have value on black men to a degree if they're an athlete or if they're an artist or if they've got somebody who's got money. But even black women, millionaires and billionaires, we don't really hold any value for them. They're just like, yeah, all right, cool, they've got a bit of money, but we're not looking to them for leadership. We're not looking to them to where we're moving our people forward. We hold black men and black women hold black men accountable because black women value us more than we value black women. And I'm just going to say that on a societal level. I don't mean on an emotional, physical level, but I'm talking about in terms of power dichotomies, black men are more valued and more valuable, within our own communities. We have to deal with racism. We have to deal with colorism. But black women have to deal with racism, colorism, sexism, patriarchy. So they have to deal with more than we have to deal with because we have become their oppressors to a degree, right? Look at rates of domestic violence. It's not women beating black men. It does happen, but disproportionately it happens the other way around.
Right.
And so I think that we are and we should be held accountable by black women to a different standard. We're supposed to be the kings. We're supposed to be the leaders. Yes, there are queens, but we are supposed to be the visionaries. We are the strongest. We are the fastest. We are the most intelligent. We are the fiercest warriors in the entire world. And we're out here acting like we are supposed to have a safe place to land every time it comes to these discussions. No, you need to go out there, do your own inner work, your own healing, your own inner, and be the fierce warrior, be the leader that God put you on earth to be. Stop waiting for validation from other people. Our own women will support. All right, I'll give you an example. There might be a few who'll be like, oh, you know, he's a hotep, he's a this, he's a that. Black women support me more than anybody else in the world. More than anybody else in the world. Black women support me. Black women support me because I am here for our people. I am a Pan-African revolutionary activist, right? So black women see me and they're like, brother, go, do what you need to do. Black women are not going to support fuckboys who are out here just... I mean, they might want their money, but on a spiritual level, they don't support them. Black women support our Marcus Garveys, our Malcolm X's, our leaders, more than anybody else. Even our own brothers see them and be like, oh, well, I need to kill him because, you know, he's got a bit of power and I want some of that power. But the reality is that Lupita is going to get held to a different standard to Michael B. Jordan or Oprah or Kamala Harris is going to get held to a different standard to Jamie Foxx or to Obama. And the reason why they're going to get held to a different standard is because nobody's looking to black women for leadership. Maybe black women are looking to black women for leadership, but are you black men looking to black women for leadership? Not really. you're looking to your other brothers.
Right.
We'll throw names around. If there was a rap beef going on right now between Megan Thee Stallion and Latto, it'd be like, all right, cool, let's talk about it. But it won't get you as Kendrick and Drake is getting you.
Right.
I get you.
Because we're not looking to them for leadership. And so I think one of the bigger problems that we still have in our communities is that the healing that we need to do within our own communities needs to be done between Black men first. And the reason why it needs to be done between Black men first is because we are the leaders and Black women will follow us.
I agree with that.
Where are we leading them though?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you say, but I could still hear some Black men saying, not everybody's a pan-Africanist like you are, like Umar is. They don't have that first. They want to go where they're going to be treated respectful, loved. They don't have that mentality of like, listen, I'm trying to build up the Black community, and I think that's where some men are just like, you know what? That's not my priority. I just really want, at the end of the day, I want to be loved and respected.
Or some of the men is being ignored.
Yeah, they just want to be loved and respected. And if you have to condition a group of women to love and respect you because they didn't grow up loving and respecting Black men, then some Black men won't have that patience to sit there and work with you because your dad wasn't in your life.
But then they're useless. They're useless Black men. And the thing is that we're not holding these men accountable. And we should hold all of our community should be. I am accountable to you guys. Look at my life, see what I'm doing. And if I'm doing something wrong, hit me up and say, yo, bro, I need to talk to you about this. Don't cause a beef online or whatever, but say, hey, bro, I need to talk to you about this. And I would do the same for you, right? We should be accountable to each other. Where we're letting these men be accountable to nobody, they're like, I'm not Black, I'm OJ. They're the special ones. They're just... They think that they live different rules because they have privileges that have allowed them to live different lives, but they're still supposed to be our community. Why is it that they're just Black when it's convenient, right? And the rest of the time, they're trying to get into white society, white money, go to the white parties, they're joining these lodges, and they're with the white Masons, and they're doing all this stuff. And honestly, I think... Like, I know it maybe might sound toxic, but what happened to man up? Like man up, be a man. What happened to that? Now it's like, well, everybody's got an opinion and everybody's opinion is valid. Everybody's opinion is not valid. Some people need to shut the fuck up. I think
the men are manning up. I just think your definition of what man up is and what his definition of man up is just two different man up.
Yeah, but his man up is abandon your community and abandon your women to try and find a safe space to land so that you can be respected.
We can compare it to, like, I think we're talking about men that's on a higher successful status than the average man that's walking up and down this block. And we're getting held to the same standard as an NBA player and the biggest rapper in the world when I'm just Joe. You get what I'm saying? Right. So why am I being held to the standard of Joe marrying a white woman? You mad at him for it, and I'm coming to you. I'm trying to show you love, and you're mad at him. You get what I'm saying? I think we need to realize that we're all human. We're all average to some degree, and that part is always being ignored. And we cannot have the answer for, the stupidity that's in some people's minds.
Yeah, and... we do got to get up out of here because I know you wanted to say something and Art looking at me like, yo, y'all got to get up out of here. But we do appreciate you for being on the show again.
That's a fact.
Let them know where they can follow you at and how they can help the cause.
They can follow me on Instagram if they can follow me on Instagram. They can follow the work in Congo at iHeart Africa. And just in closing, I'll say this. And it's something that Dr. Africa said many years ago. He said that we weren't focused on what white people were doing when we were building pyramids and we were pioneering civilization, and we need not be focused on what white people are doing now. We need to be focused on what we are doing. And if you are not every single day trying to push for your community, you don't have to be a pan-Africanist. You can be a Black nationalist. That's what Malcolm was talking about. Yeah. If you are not pushing for your community, the upliftment of your own community, the education of your own children, the financial benefit of your own community, either you're a coward or you're stupid. Because ultimately, it's only we that is going to suffer. And when it comes to whether it's relationships, whether it's religion, whether it is education, whether it is business, everything needs to be done as if we are in a war that we are losing. Because if you a defector and you go to the other side, back in the day, you used to be shot for doing that. Now people are praised. Oh, he moved out the hood. You know, he's got that white money. He's got that white woman. We are literally celebrating our own self-sabotage at the same time as trying to make fun of people and trying to attack people who are for our own progress. Doesn't make any sense. So it goes back to this self-hate, self-love thing. And as soon as we love ourselves and start to work greater together, then everything else will fall by the way. Everything else will fall by the wayside, because it doesn't matter whether you're from Barbados, whether you're African American, whether you are from Brazil. If you have melanin in you, how you got there is usually just which boat you got dropped off on. Right. So now that we're all there, I would say we should try and get back on the same boat and start swimming in the same direction.
Yeah. I appreciate you for pulling up. Again, y'all enjoy the conversation, hit the like button, subscribe, comment if y'all disagree, agree. I don't know. Let us know. Cop the merch.
Truly respect you. Appreciate
and
you, man.
join the membership. We out.
Follow the second channel, man.
I forgot. What's the second channel?
Daily Rapper Crew Clips.
Let's wrap it up.